Black Dragons, I've been talking to a lot of the South American players, and they have a lot of respect for these guys. The one issue that seems to be constant between all the players with Black Dragons is that they will always pick Rook.
Yeah.
They will consistently pick Rook simply because they have a dedicated Rook player. But, you know, I've heard from a couple different people that not only is he a dedicated Rook player, but he's good enough at the bad matchups to make it work in unfavorable situations. So whether or not we're going to see that against YoungSung, we will see. You know, I gotta say my instinct is telling me we won't, and that YoungSung is going to be able to counter this Rook, but it's still something to look out for.
Yeah, I think I would always have faith in Jeter, you know, the master of the draft himself. We see him there in his incredibly stylish t-shirts.
Yeah, I want one, dude. Those are sick.
The typography is easily some of the best I've ever seen. The slight curvature of it, really nuanced there. We have ninjas. Child prodigy, of course.
Yeah.
The only player to make serious work in the history of competitive Battlerite.
Yeah.
Solid achievement.
Child prodigy. Don't try to talk to him, though. He'll give you like 2 words and he'll be done.
Well, I mean, this is the man who tolerated the presence of Arakun for like a year.
Yeah,
so
he managed reap what you sow, so I can't help but feel like this dude's not about to talk.
He's been through the fire and the flame.
Dude,
you got to give respect.
It's probably PTSD at this point. He's probably like, is it safe to talk?
Poor dude. At least he got a sick shirt.
Sick shirt and sick talent.
Absolutely.
Dude's incredibly good. We have the drafts here ready to go. YoungSung bringing that Pest Bako Jumong. Very interesting here. When I see this comp, I'm just like, how does the Rook do anything?
Yeah.
So, of course, the Jumong, incredibly good against Rook because of the trap, and the trap weaken Battlerite and the double trap Battlerite. Not only will you be caught in a trap that covers a large area, but also you'll be weakened, so you can't eat on the Rook. Creates a lot of problems, and Pestilence as well. He's the master at getting melees off of him. He has the Infest, he has the Fears, and the Bako, great for end caps and things like that. Doesn't proc the counter. I feel like just in general, YoungSung are so set to handle this Rook.
Yeah, like I said, I think Jeter very clearly went into this draft with a lot of intention. This is a Rook, no fun Rook.
Yeah.
Draft, basically. And like you mentioned, the Pestilence Spheres are great. Queen blocks are going to be really effective against this team as well. Playing against a lot of really top-tier Pestilence, you'll notice things as a range player, you know, moving the Pestilence Queen close to you, constantly threatening that panic. The way you can sort of manipulate that mobile terrain around the map to threaten not only blocking key cooldowns, but also, you know, the panic that can kind of stir the enemy team into a ruckus. I like it a lot. I think the Pest pick is very good here, and it synergizes well with the Jumong that's going to be played by ninjas. It is actually going to be the Jeter Pest, I think, which is a very interesting thing to see because, you know, if you've been following the history of Battlerite, at least North American Battlerite, we always thought of Jeter as this really talented, flexible melee player. You know, but lately on YoungSung, he sort of ceded that role to Rare Peep in particular, and he himself has sort of picked up a variety of supports, and I've seen him on the Pestilence before, and he looks very solid. Yeah,
you know, something maybe we're guilty of is not singing the praises of Jeter quite enough, but the dude really has done everything.
Yep.
Not only does he captain this team and do their drafting, spends tons of time thinking about the games and counter picks, but he also switched roles to accompany Rare Peep, and they've been looking incredibly good with this role swap. So not only is this dude capable of playing multiple different characters and roles, he's also incredibly smart and incredibly talented. Overall, Jeter's just kind of one of the stars of North American Battlerite, the unsung heroes maybe.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best we got. You know, I always talk about Jeter as being sort of a top man, generally a top player in the world, and I like the way that he sort of navigates his team structure as well. I think is very smart. Yeah. And it's part of the reason why they're so flexible, and that's one of their greatest strengths.
Also, seeing that dude walk around, he is built. His arms, they are like guns. Like you do not want to fight Jeter with the amount of muscle he has.
No, yeah, he's a hefty boy. Once again, as like a 6'5", you know, pale toothpick. Very intimidated.
Yeah. You
Absolutely.
know, it's funny. He's like this tall. He probably weighs like he's probably like 5'8", and he probably weighs like double what you do simply out of muscle. Yeah.
It's an intimidating presence just because he can play every hero in Battlerite too. That's more what I'm concerned about. That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah. Not only could he take you on in real life, but he could also beat you up in the video game.
Exactly. Which is more important. Let's be honest. We're here to land.
Yeah. I mean, we're here for video games, not for physical altercations.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we're going to be getting into this shortly. Now, I believe we had a Jumong pick on the side of Black Dragons.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, so how do you feel about the Jumong into the Pestilence? Because it's notoriously a bad matchup for Pestilence. What do you think the Jumong needs to do? Oh, man, I want that shirt.
Look at that. Jeter's,
it's Papa and Mama Jeter.
Reppin'.
Dude,
I like it.
I wish I had parents as supportive as that. Shoutouts to you guys. Props to the parents.
That's insane. What a trip to make.
Yeah, right?
Sit in the crowd with some neon orange t-shirts. I respect the strategy. It's mind games, okay? If you're on the side of Black Dragons right now, you look into the audience and the dude's parents showed up.
Yeah, it's like, are your moms there?
To watch you lose.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's brutal. Just think of that, the pressure.
Dude, the next level thing would be if the parents said apologized to the enemy team as they lost and walked off the stage. That'd be next level.
Oh, man.
Get the parents in on the BM.
Of course, assuming, that the Black Dragons, you know, can't put up a good showing here.
Hey, man, I am going into this with the assumption that YoungSung will win. YoungSung defeated Impact, our personal favorites, to win the tournament. So I think for these guys, similar to Red Canids, the sky is the limit. I think these guys are probably the two strongest teams that we have to play or have to see here.
Yeah.
Red Canids and, of course, YoungSung. Of course, Impact, they've already lost their game, so a little bit more questionable on their end. But yeah, YoungSung, heavy favorite in my mind.
I would agree with that. I think they've looked very strong ever since they showed up to lane. I think it was a little bit questionable after that sort of infamous 15-0 by SSG at the end of the North American final. The whooping, exactly. Yeah. Where SSG, it just felt like they had the meta completely figured out, and YoungSung, despite their ability to adapt, just couldn't beat that one singular comp. And, you know, we don't really see that anymore. They look much more solid. They look very confident as well in this LAN environment. You know, there's a lot of questions. If you're Jeter, you know, you're a more mature player, obviously, but you're coming into here with two sort of young hotshots on your team. And you're kind of wondering, like, how are they going to do? When you sit them down in the booth, you got the light in their face, you got a different computer setup, but they seem to be doing great. Rare Peep seems completely unfazed, and Ninjas is just playing Battlerite. Yeah,
Ninjas and Rare Peep seem incredibly calm. I was listening to them as they were playing against Impact, and they seem so calm and collected. Jeter, just the cool level head that leads the team. I really like their team atmosphere, because a lot of the time you'll find team atmospheres either get overly toxic or they get like too like friendly and like jokey, where it's hard to take the atmosphere seriously.
Yeah.
But these guys, all business. Outside of game, it's clear they're friends, but in game, they are all about winning, and it's reflected in their score today. Of course, beating down Impact, the tournament favorite.
It's so interesting to think about how that happened. I wish we'd gotten a chance to sort of watch that game, because I feel like there was so much history sort of made in that game there. And I think a lot of it probably came down to sort of figuring out the draft, as we credited Jeter with. You know, we've thought about sort of the way that Impact approaches the draft with such versatility, so many different possible picks, and I think that's probably the way that Jeter managed to conquer that situation.
Dude, Jeter's shirt matches the lights.
Yeah, it's all coordinated. Dude, this guy plans everything.
Yeah, they were like, hello.
You think they didn't know that?
Please seat us on the red side so we get the orange.
I didn't know what the stage looked like until like 24 hours ago, but Jeter just felt it in his soul.
He just knew it.
He just knew it.
And the orange is good color, of course, too. So, I mean, even if the stage weren't orange, it's still a good run. Got a couple of issues here, you know. I think I jinxed us. I think I was like, I hope we have no more pauses today. And then, you know, we get a pause.
It's called because you came back. You should have just let me and Jolts keep talking to Takeout Guy. We had a storyline going on there, dude, okay? That's what I've been told esports is about, is creating a storyline. Okay?
Yeah, you're innovating casting here. You're doing it with the crowd.
Exactly. It's all about the evolution of the dab and charting the Takeout Guy's food eating progress. That's what we're trying to build here, okay? I'm trying to do something specific. Just let me be me.
Do you, Crooks, do you? Yeah, I mean, that's why we have you here. We have me, the serious, professional one, and then we have you to create havoc, create that chaos that you're known for.
Yeah, in the flesh. Only ask question. Crook, only one who knows the answer.
Yeah, that's our dynamic in a nutshell, memed by Twitch chat.
I feel you. I feel you.
I ask question. I don't know any of the answers myself. I don't actually like play this game. I'm just here to like set you up to look smart. It's a lot of work, but I managed to make it work most of the time.
Oh, so you beat me to it. I was going to say it wasn't that hard. You turned it around on me, though. I respect the strategy.
Dude, the day here has been too long. We've been here for too long not to start memeing each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're done with me at this point.
Oh, I was done with you when I met you.
Hey, round 2. What's up?
Hey.
I like it. That frog face is so tilting to see in Twitch chat. If you lose to Jeter in solo queue and somebody types something like that in his Twitch chat, it just makes me want to throw my keyboard.
Yeah. I'm sure you're used to that, losing to Jeter in Twitch chat.
Oh, yeah.
You probably just don't win much in solo queue in general.
I'm super used to losing to Jeter. Are you kidding me? Dude,
yeah.
Insane.
I don't think there's any shame to that.
He also picks Rygon in 2s. I mean, what's wrong?
Dude, him and Rare Peep both play Rygon in 2s.
That's why I can't respect the YoungSung strategies, because they pick Rygon in 2s. You know what's interesting is it's different through a computer monitor because they aren't people there. But then you see them there and you look in Jeter's face and you're like, oh my God.
You Rygon picker. Dude, the worst part?
This thing picks Rygon in 2s. Disgusting.
The roughest thing is when you go against Rare Peep and he picks Rygon, and then you pick Jade because you're a Jade main, and then he's like, I hate Jade mains. Oh, and he's like playing Rygon in 2s. I'm like, Rare Peep, give me a break, man.
Rare Peep's a funny boy.
Dude, yeah, a funny boy and an incredibly skilled player. He's somebody that, you know, for a while, he wasn't quite on the same level as a lot of the players at the top, but as of late, since the start of the BPL Season 1, he's definitely proved himself here.
Yeah, I think he was slept on for a little while in tops of like top NA competition.
He didn't even have a team, bro.
Exactly, he didn't have a team. His name was never brought up. This is back in the day when he was playing a lot of Croak, a lot of Taya specifically, and people didn't really know him. And I really first started to hear about him from kind of, you know, playing duos with Hyther and hearing all about this kid that was just sick, you know, that Hyther would play with sometimes. And here he is, you know, qualified for LAN, and the kid's sick. Who knew?
Yeah, incredibly good player. He's going to be playing the Bako, of course. Another story of versatility coming from Rare Peep. Way back in the day, he used to play with a player named Maelstrom and Jeter on a team named Scylla. They placed 4th at Enter the Arena, the largest Battlerite tournament of its time. He used to play Taya. He used to be a range player. So similar to Jeter, he's another one of those guys that's really switched up roles and still proven his versatility and like his skill. and it's very cool to see. That's one of my favorite things about YoungSung in general. I've said these two things about both Jeter and Rare Pete, but it's also applicable to ninjas. All of these dudes play like every single role, and not only does it make drafting against them really hard, but it's really scary in general.
Yeah, I think that's a sort of a common pattern. Is I feel like a lot of these guys who have made it big in competitive threes in Battlerite are players who have understanding of the game more than just outside or just inside their own role. You know, we heard from Aklo in his rather colorful interview.
Dude, that guy was hype.
It was very hype, but just him talking about how the players on his team were very familiar with like how the sausage gets made. You know what I mean? Like understanding how other people on your team play their roles is so important to play your role better, because you understand like how they're trying to help you and how you can help them. And I think that's just so important. You know, if you're a ranged player and you also play support, you understand what you need from a support, and you also understand all those situations where it was horrible to play support and all those things you thought that your ranged player could do better. And that kind of helps you improve, I think.
Yeah, like, for example, if you're playing Lucy when you're generally a ranged player, you'll understand when the Lucy generally wants to barrier you.
Exactly.
And you'll learn how to play better in that way. You won't stack CDs as much, which is incredibly important in top-level Battlerite. Like, if you stack a barrier with something like a Tornado, which we saw SSG do a couple of times in their loss against Red Canids, you'll just be much less effective, and you'll be down a very important cooldown. So being able to understand how each role ends up playing itself, like you mentioned, very important.
Nice little pan of BYOC here.
BYOC?
Bring your own computer.
Oh. Yeah, this is neat. I've never been in a situation like this, but there's a lot of people out there hanging out. We even saw some people playing Battlerite. That was pretty sick.
Really?
Shoutouts to you, homies, playing Battlerite in the crowd.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, we made it, dude.
That's insane.
Not only are we a DreamHack, but people are playing our game.
A live game, dude.
Yeah.
Insane.
Man, I'm very interested to see how this goes. Of course, we're going to be on Mount Araz Nights. How do you feel about Rook on this map?
I think this is not a bad map. I generally have the opinion that the Arazas are like relatively sort of neutral picks in terms of the map pool. I don't feel particularly strongly about seeing them in any given series, I think. So I think Rook can absolutely be good here. I think the chokes and those one big, the one big wall for him can maybe make it a little bit different or difficult for him to enter like the center of the map to vie for orb control. I think it could be easy for him to get pushed out, especially by certain comps that YoungSung might be looking to run. I think that Jumong in particular is potentially really strong at zoning the Rook out here. He get caught in the choke, just locked down by bear traps and double rain of arrows.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely rough. Definitely something that Tonho and the boy of Black Dragons are going to have to look out for. It's going to be pretty scary here. I think we should be getting into the game here pretty shortly. I wonder what kind of adjustments will be made by whichever team loses. I'm expecting, of course, Black Dragons to lose, like I mentioned. YoungSung, the heavy favorite going into this match. I wonder what other kind of picks we'll see from them. Maybe if they'll ever switch off the Rook, or if this guy's just like hard dedicated.
I feel like they're not going to. I would be very surprised by that. I feel like he's always sort of lauded himself as just a Rook player, and I think what you said is actually, very interesting. And you as primarily a Jade player from the old days of Battlerite, you'll know this, is that even if you do specialize in one hero, an upside of that is that you understand even the bad matchups to a pretty incredible degree, because you got to play them all the time. Yeah. So for some people, that's sort of removed from the equation of being like a one-trick pony. Yeah. Because you understand that it's not a bad matchup, it's just like a different matchup at that point. And maybe Tonyo has things up his sleeve to kind of deal with that.
Absolutely. Like, for example, when I was playing Jade, I had to play against a lot of Jumongs. You learn all of the small things in that matchup better than your enemy will, so you'll know how you need to play. You'll know you need to use a disabling shot on the first M1. You learn all the really minuscule details that can lead to you actually winning an unfavorable matchup. And, I'm sure this Rook player knows how to do that. I'm sure he has all of these matchups downloaded in his memory banks. It'll just be interesting to see whether or not he's able to pull it off against a team as highly rated as YoungSung.
Yeah, it's difficult to say, because I would definitely tend to err on the side of what you're saying. Is that I think in the end, especially in a best-of-5 format like this, flexibility just can't be overvalued, and the fact that you can approach the draft in any direction you deem possible, especially with that kind of knowledge of your opponents there. So we are going to get into the draft, or into the game, of course, momentarily. So I don't know. It should be interesting. I think this first game will give us a good measure of the series. I've kind of been feeling like that about LAN in general, is that after Red Canids dropped SSG with that kind of stable play, I feel like all bets are off in terms of predictions. Right. I feel like since everything, we have the privilege of casting best-of-5s, I feel like I got to see at least one game to kind of get a read on what's going on.
You got to see how everyone does, how everyone looks.
Exactly. Yeah, and after that, I would feel more comfortable making a call.
So, Crooks, aside from this game alone, what has been the most interesting thing to you about today's games? Big question, right?
I think it's seeing just the collision of playstyles. You know what I mean? Because we've always sort of talked about that, the difference between the regions. You know, you've got NA sort of labeled as very aggressive, EU a little bit more defensive, Brazil oddly somewhere in between. It seems in this weird medium that we haven't really seen before. And I think the way that these people are sort of learning more about each other over the series, I think we particularly saw in the series between Dolos and Team XD, actually, where you could tell the teams were kind of adapting and understanding a little bit more about each other over time. And I think when the play styles collide there, we start to learn a little bit more about like different ways of playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot was learned today, but we'll see what we can learn from this match. We got Black Dragons versus YoungSung coming up now. We're here. We got some sick music, some sick jams to lead us into this game one of our second to last best of 5 of the day. Of course, YoungSung versus Black Dragons, Crooks.
Yeah, very excited. A strong early start for the side of Black Dragons, actually, pushing YoungSung out into this top right, a little bit opposite of what I thought. Tonyo was going to go ahead and go in. He's kind of blocked off by the Queen here, threatening to panic. Doesn't manage to land that on anybody as the Queen dies beforehand. They managed to evade the Rook counter as well, and is just going to open up with the damage. Look at this.
That triple armor break doing quite a lot. The Rain of Arrows landing on the Pestilence immediately after, but I think the damage definitely favors YoungSung here, as the Rook has almost no HP to work with. He's in that trap now too. He ate and countered. Rook is going to have to play so safely for the next couple seconds. He's going to charge in now, finally having counter up again, spamming that EXM1. We'll see if this Pestilence ultimate has any value. He's going to have to infest back. Leads me to think Jeter's going to use his ultimate very defensively here.
Yeah, look at Tonyo just getting worked the entire time. It feels like Ninjas has complete control of the map. This orb is going to be big. They do manage to confirm it, even though Jeter messed up the math just a little bit. Now Oda is getting aggressed on, is forced to use the Prowl. They're all retreating to the Blossom Tree, but it feels like that's really not going to save him. Rare Peep, so mobile on the Baco.
Rare Peep, he's going in. He gets that space. He cancels out the Dance of the Dryads too on the Blossom. That EX3 dropped as well, but the EXM2 from Ninja is going to clean up the Forest Lady. Bambi has nowhere to go. It's put down.
It's really been a joy for me today, just seeing so much just stable Jumong play from players like Jurgen, like Ninjas.
Yeah.
It's really fun to watch them play because they sort of understand their win condition very well, and especially when you see Jumong let that EXM2 rip right at the right situation, the punish is just disgusting.
Yeah, Ninja's going to be pulling the MVP with this one. Rightly so, as he had an absolute insane amount of damage put out. He's actually taken the double Rain of Arrows battle rights. Do you think that's kind of a key against the Rook pick?
Yeah, I actually like that a lot. I like Ninja's decision to sort of forego the stun M2. You know, a couple of days ago when we first showed up, we were having lunch in a restaurant before you showed up, and we had a heated discussion about the idea of subbing out the Jumong stun on M2 in certain builds. And I actually like it quite a bit here because I think Rain of Arrows is just so influential in shutting down both Blossom and Rook. You can catch them without their major outs, and having both of those rights, not only the additional slow, but the damage, it really amplifies the amount that you can get done there.
Yeah, you can get so much damage out with those battle rights. He has the double trap battle right as well. Really just the anti-Rook battle right. Like if Rook ever gets caught in those Rain of Arrows with a trap like we saw in the last round, he's going to kind of just get bodied. Definitely not the most favorable outcome for the Rook, and it's making that counter matchup even harder for him to navigate.
Yeah, exactly. I think they really just wanted to put Ninjas on Rook duty, like you said, because Rare Peep seems more than comfortable. Baco already considered a relatively favorable matchup into Blossom for a lot of reasons. Everything from the fact that you can reflect a lot of her very telegraphed abilities from that charged M1 to the Boom Bloom to the ultimate even with your Bulwark. You can just charge in, you can stop her despite her tree sort of covering her. It just seems like a relatively favorable matchup, so I'm not surprised that they've tailored Ninja's Jumong build specifically to stop the Rook from doing Rook things.
Yeah, the Pestilence, of course, also very good against the Rook. Like we mentioned, I think in general, just this comp from YoungSung fits so well into what Black Dragons are bringing to the table. We talked a lot about how the Rook is countered, but what we haven't mentioned is how Blossom does not do well against Jumong.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Just getting double Rain of Arrows dropped on you completely. And sure, you'll have Gust to maybe discourage him from trying to EXM2 you, but it feels like the pressure from Jumong is just really oppressive.
Infest being used very defensively here by Jeter. That Bloodsucker coming out, healing up Ninjas quite a bit. Gonna get some energy from the Pestilence Queen is the Rook. He has to M2. Oh, nice ultimate there. The Dragon Slayer getting a ton of damage, and red team, or blue team, gonna be able to secure the orb. It's actually taken by YoungSung.
Yeah, that's not a bad snipe for YoungSung there, and it's definitely going to bring that back with the HP total a little bit. The Pestilence ultimate going off already manages to nail the Blossom really, really hard. What an amount of scaling damage there, actually pretty ridiculous. And Rare Peep posturing very aggressively is going to be holding the bulwark, trying to trap somebody. A nicely played Blossom ultimate there is going to put the screws to Rare Peep a little bit as they've taken some damage, but YoungSung collapsing, and they've switched positions so fluidly here.
Yeah, very interesting. YoungSung, they found themselves back out in that corner. The M2 going to be reflected by the bulwark, and now this is very good for Black Dragons as they're able to secure all of the greens on the map and heal up quite up to full. The Rook, he's still having such a hard time initiating here, Crooks, though. The counter is procced. He eats an M2 from Jumong, but not too much damage is going to come out as a result.
Yeah, that's just Rook in a nutshell. He actually managed to walk all of that off, and blue team are going to be able to confirm an orb. They don't have much of an HP advantage, even despite that Rook ultimate. The Jumong going to try and pump out some damage. I don't know about that Blossom ultimate. It's definitely going to discourage YoungSung from getting close to the center of the map, and Ninja's just free firing away, doing his thing. He's going to try and move up with his HP a little bit and spend some of it as a resource to get his teammates back towards mid.
Nice bulwark there to negate that charge. The Dragon Slayer coming out from Ninjas, and he's going to secure the orb with it. A beautiful play, and now YoungSung, they're able to aggress mid and get a lot of damage on this Blossom. My God, Crooks.
Look at that. You've got the Seeker's Mark plus that EX M2 from Jumong. Jeter, of course, snapping on with that M2 from Pestilence. The amount of damage there, absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Pestilence can burst like no other.
Yeah, absolutely. That Bloodsucker deals a ton of damage, and that round, it looked incredibly good for the blue team. Of course, Black Dragons were able to post up mid, but it seemed like YoungSung, the coordinated play from them just allowed them to approach and take an orb after they lost mid control, and then the round just went in their favor after.
Yeah, just cool and calculated, and I like the way they sort of, like you said, clawed their way back into that game from a little bit of a deficit. I think in particular, Ninja's willingness to spend that Dragon Slayer to confirm the orb. Yeah. Very, very smart. Get some of that true HP back, rolling, get a little bit of energy back for your investment as well. I think it's more than worth it to do that in a situation like that.
Yeah, especially with an ability as hard to land as Dragon Slayer. Of course, the charge time takes a long time. There's a gust in this game. Yeah. There's a counter in this game from the Rook. Using it on something like the orb, just so incredibly high value. Rook, speaking of value, is going to get none off that first charge. He has to use the M2 as well. Crooks, this is not a good look. The counter's procced. This is not great for the Rook.
They just have a complete read over him. It feels like he's not getting any value from his abilities. And here you see these double rain of arrows. Battlerite's really starting to take over as they've pushed out Black Dragons completely. The Blossom space has been used as well. They do manage to confirm the orb, but this could be a situation where they can actually get a lot of damage done on the side of YoungSung. Ninja's not really in a position to do too much, though, as he's playing relatively far back.
Yeah, Tanho, he farms up that queen and gets a little bit of energy. His counter, once again, isn't proc, though, and he's stuck in that situation, that double rain of arrows and trap. He's just having such a hard time. The panic from the Pestilence lands as well. What is this Rook to do in this counter matchup? The counter is not hit. He uses the M2. He is dead, Crooks. Actually manages to charge out. If that had hit an enemy, it might have actually been his death.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Blossom not able to confirm the orb here as Rare Peep just going to move forward with that ulti. Going to charge in with the ulti. Unfortunately, it misses, but this should create a lot of space, and Ninja's just going to execute Tanyo.
Yep, we have that Jumong versus Rook. Of course, there was no M2 and no counter available for Tanho, and he just got absolutely bursted by Ninjas on the Jumong. Really nice sense of the Dryads to dodge that charge in from Rare Peep, but at the end of the day, it's not going to matter too much. Of course, the Dragon Slayer gonna come out here, not gonna get any value though. Ninjas and Co look sitting pretty healthy in the middle of the map. The XM2 coming out. The tree is gonna be the answer, but Ninjas, he's just farming up energy happily.
Yeah, and this comp from YoungSung, really very interesting. Rare Peep, so disruptive on the Bako, and then on the backline, it feels like you've got artillery fire just headed for your face constantly between the Jumong, between the Pest M2s, along with the threat of that Queen flying at you, trying to send you all the way back to your spawn in panic. It really feels quite oppressive, and Rook is not having a good game here.
Yeah.
They clearly have found the complete solution to Rook. You see Jeter.
He's smiling.
A little smirk there. He's like, yeah, pick Rook again. I did.
Yeah, he's like, hey, we figured it out.
Do it, please. Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about it. We said the big thing of this game is whether or not the Rook would be able to play into the counter matchups. And in these first 3 rounds, it definitely doesn't look like that's the case. Ninjas is just having a field day with this Rook, and Tanho is just unable to get anything going.
Definitely having some difficulties. I like the early rain of arrows from Auto as there just to force Jeter to infest. However, his teammates do the right thing and just stay grouped with him so he can't get in trouble.
Rare Peep taking some damage here. He has to use that war shout pretty early on. He gets the Pest Shield too. A lot of resources being committed to this Bako. He's gonna have to play a little bit safe here. He has the Queen block out the Rook and help him out quite a bit here, and Red Team takes the Orb, Crooks. However, they still have a 15% HP deficit.
Yeah, as we see Tanyo in a little bit of trouble here. Audaz is going to let that Dragon Slayer go for really no value at all. As blue team, I like the fact that they're moving forward here. They're playing with their advantage a little bit, but they may have overstayed their welcome as Rare Peep gets a 6 double cap. The follow-up on Tanyo, they do unfortunately hit the counter, but they still get a lot of damage on him, and they're going to try and reset and posture for the orb. Blue team does manage to steal it from him, but now YoungSung are just going to be grouping up, and now the Rain of Arrows, I think, is really going to start doing work.
Yeah, Tanho, he is able to pick up those greens, which is absolutely massive for the Rook. Rook definitely a character that wants to have a nice buffer of HP to work with. Scarabs, they're coming out. Speaking of buffers of HP to work with, Ninja is sitting so close to full. Rare Peep not so lucky, but he still finds a nice end cap, and the Dragon Slayer landing onto the Rook. The tree is there to help heal up the Rook quite a bit. This actually might be a turn for the blue team. The Dance of the Dryads gets out a decent amount of damage too, but everybody of YoungSung able to get out and reconnect and stabilize, but Black Dragons, for their pressure, are going to claim an orb.
Yeah, Tano has no counter, and Audez has no movement abilities. He does have the space up now, but they've got to be so careful on Black Dragons. They can't really afford to be aggressive. The Dragon Slayer wasn't really charged there, so it's not that much damage other than a knockback. Rare Peep charging, they read the Rook counter completely, and the Boomerang finishes him off. Nicely played.
Yeah, really well played here from YoungSung as they still managed to come back in this round. Even in that situation where up in the corner, the Dance of the Dryads came out to try to turn the fight, they still had a pretty massive advantage, and they carried it through the remainder of this round. They secure another orb to clean up this one. The Blossom's going to fall on Audaz on his Jumong. Not going to last too much longer. We'll see if he can clean up Jeter here. He does manage to clean up Jeter, so he does get a consolation prize, but he's not going to get the round.
Fair enough. I think that moment that YoungSung created with, you know, that in-cap into the potential for the Dragon Slayer, I was surprised at how wrong that felt like it went right afterwards. And it's interesting they were able to come back from it, but Rare Peep had a very difficult round starting right then. We saw him forced to stomp defensively to try and get back to his teammates after setting up that combo. A little bit questionable.
Yeah, unfavorable, but like we talked about, Jeter and his queen doing so much to make the Rook's life hard, made it so Rare Peep's unfavorable start still worked out for him at the end. We'll see if it continues going into this next round. This is game point in game one of this best of 5.
It just feels like Tano can be as aggressive as he wants to be. He's just out here throwing boulders, and that's just like, it's not what you want to do with Rook. You're not a range hero. Here comes the double rain of arrows. I like the EX tree, but look, that just, it felt so low value. It didn't really block that much, yeah.
Oh, and the orb is stolen by Rare Peep's space. Beautiful play from the boy, taking that orb, and with a pretty significant HP advantage. They're all getting pretty close to ultimate as well. Jeter about halfway to his. Ninjas on that Jumong, very close to his own.
Yeah, and that's where we're really going to see, I think, the playmaking from YoungSung is going to be Ninja's ulti here. Follows up with that EXM2, locking down Tano. It's actually a little bit body blocked by the tree there. Ninja's just ricocheting those Seeker's arrows off of the tree the entire time. They do manage to take an orb. Higure is going to launch that Blossom ulti for not a whole lot of value as Ninja says Prowl.
Yeah, the Prowl is going to dodge that Dragon Slayer too. Audaz getting no value out of that full bar of energy, and the Rook, once again, feared off into no man's land. This is not a great look as the blue team, they managed to reconnect, but the damage has already been done in terms of HP and energy. Rook has been forced to eat so many times that he's got no energy to work with. He desperately needs this orb to stay in the round. He gets it, but Crooks, it might not be enough.
Yeah, I like the Blossom ulti just to try and zone YoungSung out a little bit, but now unfortunately they don't have any follow-up for that. It feels like YoungSung is totally fine with being in this corner here. Just going to dodge the double rain of arrows from Audaz. Ninja's just getting his own stacks up, his own energy up, and now Tanyo once again caught out a little bit. He's not going to be able to run away. He's forced to iframe the fear as well. That leaves him in a bad situation, and YoungSung are going to try and push in.
Yeah, beautiful orb take though from the blue team. A nice knockback from the Rook's boulder, and then a charge into it. M2 from the Jumong going to land on the Pestilence. Jeter taking a little bit of damage there. Ninja's being forced to play pretty defensively here. The EX tree is dropped. This could be a big opening onto the Rook. They might find the kill here off the back of a sick panic, and they do. Jeter securing that kill for his boys.
Yeah, the way they played the terrain there as a team was really, really impressive. The way you could tell Rare Peep when he went in, he was angling to try and pin Tanyo against that wall, set up with Jeter with the panic to be able to confirm that kill. Very nicely played. Smart use of the map.
Dance of the Dryads coming out. Blossom going out, going down. Of course, Audaz on that Jumong, all that's left. Looking like this is all but over. He's trying to claim a kill on Ninjas just so he can leave with a smile on his face, but he's leaving with nothing but misery and a loss.
And the first game is going to be a 5-0 for YoungSung here on a Raz night. And it looked like, you know, it's like you said, they just had a complete solution to what the Rook playstyle was going to try and do. And, I mean, they look comfortable.
Yeah, looking at the players, too, with these cameras, you can really see how this round went. Black Dragon's looking a little bit conflicted. The Rook player, Tanho, right here, looking a little bit concerned for his pick. We'll see if maybe he opts to switch off of something or if they just try to, you know, truck through the mud. But, you know, the mud is all that YoungSung have put out in front of them, and that comp giving the Rook nowhere to go.
Yeah, and I don't see them really changing anything soon because I feel like a lot of the core of that comp is situated to really be relatively flexible based on almost anything you could pick that you would want to synergize with the Rook. You know, we've seen Audaz on ranged heroes like Ashka before, and I think that comp is fine against Ashka. You know, Ashka can have some favorable matchups against Jumong, but a lot of the time it's usually just Jumong dropping the double rain, making your life very difficult, kind of out-trading you with those 16 damage M1s. I think Ashka can have openings against Pestilence as well, but at the same time, if you're using some of your valuable iframes on, you know, those Pestilence Fear bounces or to get away from the Queen,
you're just going to get Rain of Arrows.
You can be Rain of Arrows. You can be left very open to other things. Nonetheless, a rare peep Bako, which is very difficult for Ashka to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the Ashka in general having so many problems. It's like we talked about earlier. Ashka is very good against Jumong for like 3 seconds, every 20 seconds.
Yep.
When Firewall is up, the Ashka can manhandle the Jumong, and even then, there is still the opportunity for a double Rain of Arrows to be dropped. So it's not even like for that 2 seconds, you're just like invulnerable. There are a lot of problems with that matchup, and I'm not sure it's going to solve the problems that YoungSung are presenting.
Yep.
Just in general, I think YoungSung, the comp they brought to the table, it seems to solve all of the problems that Black Dragons have caused their enemies up to this point.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the adaptation could potentially be out of Black Dragons. We hadn't even talked about, but Higure definitely known as sort of a Blossom player, right? That's definitely been kind of his chief pick through all of this. So I don't even know if a support adaptation could ever be in the works at all.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that goes. Of course, we are getting set up for Game 2. Okay, we're on Ormond Temple Day. If there's a map that Rook owns on, it's Ormond Temple Day, Crooks.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that this map actually made it through. I think YoungSung must have some sort of solution for what's going on there in particular. I think the Destiny pick here is what we're going to be seeing out from YoungSung. Their third pick is that Destiny for Ninjas. We haven't seen it too much in the history of competitive play, but most people say Ninja's Destiny is one of the scariest they've ever seen.
Yeah.
His positioning is just brutal. He's played a lot of counter-based heroes like Shifu before. Of course, combine that with his just brutal mouse accuracy that he has on heroes like Jumong that you just saw, and it's very scary. He plays an interesting, a very interesting Destiny build as well, very M1 heavy, kind of poke heavy Destiny build.
So what do you think about the Destiny on this map though? Ormond Temple Day, there's a lot of walls on this map, very little room for the Destiny to run. I'm not sure it's better than the Jumong pick. Why do you think they opted for it?
I think they may just be wanting to try something a little bit different. I think Destiny in particular, I think this is really just YoungSung trying to change their comp a little bit on a whim, because I think while Destiny matches up relatively favorably into Rook, it can be very difficult to play Destiny into Ashka comps. You know, you use your space, and then what tools do you have left to deal with Volcano?
Right.
And that's such a huge setup potential for Ashka. Even the Firewall there helps you a lot. You can combat that, of course, with that Plasma Wall from Destiny, but it's not quite as effective. It's not quite the same thing. You definitely have a harder time sort of posting up, dealing damage against Ashka. So I would consider this Destiny pick a very, very confident pick from YoungSung.
Yeah, Destiny, I've heard a lot about Ninja's Destiny and how good it is. Of course, Averse used to sing the praises of Ninja's Destiny, saying that he was the only Destiny in North America that was better than him. And I mean, if Averse is saying that somebody else in North America is better than him at a range character, it's probably true. We'll see how it goes here. Game 2 coming up right now. I'm still not over that stage, man. What a cool stage here. Game 2. Game 1 was dominantly won by YoungSung, taking it 5-0 over Black Dragons. We'll see if this Ormond Day pick can help out the cheeky Rook. Not looking too good to start things off as the Bako Rare Peep getting right up on that Ashka.
Yeah, look at the early burning of Ashka's cooldown. It's just absolutely brutal. Rare Peep is just stuffing him. It feels like he's holding his head underwater, squelching the Fire Lord completely as they have pushed them into the corner just a little bit here. That being said, Ninja's going to try and buy them a little bit of space. You know, with that wall, he's going to move up just with his M1s, try and get some damage in here as Tonyo trying desperately to get onto Pestilence, but it's not really working as now YoungSung have entered the middle of the map.
Yeah, YoungSung, the Pestilence had to space away, so there's a little bit of a weak point here, but the damage seems to have been mitigated for the most part. Bako going right in there and eating that Dance of the Dryads with a stun. My God, Rare Peep, the Tremor from the Rook going to help finish him off too. A problem we saw with the Rook last game is that he consistently didn't get enough energy for ulti, but we see it here paying its dividends.
Man, that ulti burst from the side of Black Dragons was, I'd never seen them, you know, do that before in the last game. Even that coordination out of nowhere was great, just snapping up Rare Peep right away. I think his early start this game, the way that he aggressed onto Audas constantly, just left Ashka no room to do any damage, was really, really good, but I'm not sure how they just weren't able to transition that into a mid-game sort of push for the orb.
Another Dance of the Dryad's going to come out, but Panic is the answer. The Infernal Scorch, though, is not going to be answered. Jeter loses his life, and with it, YoungSung going to lose round 1 in this game, too. Ormond Day immediately looking much better.
Yeah, I mean, this must be a little bit of a scary map to play against a Rook one trick on. I think Blossom as well, you know, throwing those boom blooms around can sort of section off a large area of the playable space of the map.
And Ashka.
Yeah, exactly, Ashka as well with the Volcano. I remember always talking to Chalt, you know, sort of the North American Ashka player, and he always told me, you know, Ormond Day actually kind of a sleeper OP pick. Or a map if you're trying to draft Ashka, because you can control those corridors so well, and there's so many walls for you to hop over with space. Stay out of line of sight of the melees.
Boulder. It's hitting the Destiny to start this one off. Tanho not going to get his charge hit. Jeter with a very wise space to get away. Tanho having a very hard time farming up any energy. That nice firewall going to negate the M2 from Ninjas, trading that 25 energy for that 35 HP.
Yep, not too bad for him. He's playing very aggressively right now, more than willing to try and aggress onto Ashka here, confirming the orb with his R. Pretty worth on the side of Destiny. I like doing that quite a bit. Audez is going to attempt to open up on them with those Ashka M2s, but he's not able to find too much damage here. As Rook's going to attempt to go in, but Rarepeep is just going to swap places with him, get aggressive himself.
Higure, he's got that ultimate, Crooks. Ninja's very close to his own. Dance of the Dryads, it's here, but it's not going to get too much value. Red team just sitting up top, saying very grouped. Oh, the space from Ninja's not going to get any value. The pinball going to get 2 hits, 3. The M2 from the Rook actually going to dodge him. My God, though, that play. Beautiful connection of the M2 from Destiny into the ultimate from Bako, and the Rook just gets erased.
Yeah, that the way Ninja sort of held his M2 there to make sure it was impossible for Tanyo to use anything to stop that ultimate from connecting. Very smart play. Just that little delay on it, you know, that's the difference between a great player and an amazing tournament level player.
Yeah, and of course he has that extended duration of the spell block on his M2, so it ensured the spell block would be long enough to kill the Rook. They managed to get it. We'll see if they can kill the Blossom here. Looking like they will. A nice Bako space to ensure the EXE from Destiny hit. And YoungSung, they strike back with a vengeance.
Yeah, much better. The coordination between Rarepeep and Ninjas in particular. Of course, Jeter doing his thing on the backline. It's going to be a little bit difficult for Jeter to sort of position in a way that starts to benefit him, work out for him on this map. But he's been doing it relatively well so far, I think, aside from that slight slip up round 1.
It's interesting to see Jeter's Battlerite build. We talked about the power of AoEs in this tight map, a lot of small chokes to get the value out of AoEs. He doesn't have that bounce on the Fear.
3.
That is interesting. Maybe he feels like the interaction between that and sort of the walls, you really only need one connection with the Fear to do the work it needs to do.
He's not going to hit that first Fear, however. Blossom going to manage to get out of it. Things looking pretty even for both teams, but a 10% HP advantage early on to the blue team. Black Dragons desperately want that, but what they want even more is their Rook to be successful, and he's got no energy and no way in, Crooks.
Yeah, he's having a really hard time. Jeter, honestly, just kind of pushing him around down the bottom. That counter hit was unfortunate, but Rarepeep slamming him into the wall, and now Destiny is just going to try and reset a little bit, put the screws to Audez and Higure a little bit, try and get some damage in as they make a play. The orb coming up momentarily. Jeter, nice time to channel that Pestilence ultimate as well. Force them up off of mid. Hopefully, nice Q by Audez as well, going to lock Jeter down. He's actually taking a significant amount of damage.
Yeah, the Rookie's finally found his way in. He gets a decent amount of damage, but he's going to take even more from this stun. The Infernal Scorch not getting nearly as much as he wanted either. Bako, that bar of energy, that full stick of butter. We'll see if he can get anything with that heroic charge. Destiny sitting on a pinball as well. The heroic charge is going to land onto the Rook, but it doesn't get as much damage. The pinball, we'll see how that goes. It actually interrupts Audaz's ability, but down bottom, Rook is just destroying this Bako now, Crooks.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate development. Ninja's kind of ending up in his own spawn. Not really what you're looking to see with that Destiny ultimate. He hasn't been able to find too much damage with that. Audaz sort of resetting his position, trying to play around that tree. Decent damage by Ninjas, but he's forced to space that Ashka Q. And now there's potential for Black Dragons to really push YoungSung hard here.
Yeah. Black Dragons, they're taking that mid control, wanting to take this next orb spawning right now. We'll see if they're able to get it. It would be so impactful for the Rook if he could get it, but Rarepeep's not having any of it. Black Dragons actually steal it. The Dance of the Dryads, Higure stealing that one.
Yeah, pretty surprising, but I like his usage of the ultimate throughout, the entirety of the series so far. Jeter going to channel yet another Pestilence ultimate. Nice timing on the firewall by Ashka to deny at least one of those. He's going to keep channeling that. Doesn't manage to hit Higure. YoungSung actually coming back in the damage numbers a little bit.
Yeah, getting so much damage out of that Scarabs, hitting both. The Infernal Scorch is getting one hit, but it's not nearly enough as the orb went to YoungSung. Ashka, he's eating the M2 from Ninjas as well. Ninja's almost up to that full bar of energy, but his counter's not procs. He very wisely rolls back to his allies. I like this reset from YoungSung.
Yeah, his positioning is really on point here, just trying to stay grouped with his teammates, not going too aggressively, not getting greedy with the space. Nice EX placement as well, just putting Tanyo in the absolute timeout zone. The Rook can't go anywhere. The orb gonna get confirmed, however, by Black Dragons. They're up 5 orbs to 1. I mean, just in terms of resources, it should look so favorable for them, but YoungSung hangs on, and in sudden death, they're very scary with Pestilence Panic.
Oh yeah, this is scary. The Infest was forced out simply because of that boulder. The pinball, here it is. He goes across the map, gets a couple of hits, but not as much as he needed. He's now got no HP. He's spamming that EXM1 and gets a silence on the Rook before he charges, but Crooks, this is still such an uphill battle. Ninjas, he's so close to dying. The Infernal Scorch is thrown over the wall into the sudden death to kill him, but they don't actually get him, and YoungSung could still take this round. The Bako, he's knocked out. YoungSung is it, Crooks.
That's insane. That team play was disgusting. Ninja's living with just a sliver of HP. Jeter infested him for that damage mitigation. He was sitting in that Infernal Scorch damage that would have killed him otherwise, but the damage mitigation kept him alive, and that cute little bop by the Destiny space at the end to make sure that Tana was instead even shooting out that Destiny R just to make sure that if Tano started charging, he could pop it to cancel the charge and hold him in that sudden death even longer. I mean, they played that sudden death situation so clean. It shows their team play.
You know, after rounds like that, I'm not too surprised that Impact was able to, or wasn't able to take a match against YoungSung. YoungSung, of course, taking that one 3-1. And that last team play at the end there was just unreal.
Yeah, that clutch was terrifying to watch if you're on the side of Black Dragons.
Yeah, at that point, you're just like, man, these guys are good.
Yeah, what am I even doing?
Yeah, Destiny gonna ball up, not gonna get too much value out of it here. Doesn't get that hit, but she doesn't take any damage either. Pretty favorable here for YoungSung as Rook. He's still been unable to make that entrance. A nice ball there to negate the charge of Rook. And Crooks, once again, they're just not letting this Rook in.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they've gotten a much better idea of how to deny Rook with this comp after, you know, kind of a rough 2 rounds that we've seen in this game. It feels like Ninjas in particular is playing very, very confidently the way he's been denying the Rook space. He's just pushing 2 people back on his own with an offensive counter.
Oh.
He lands that Destiny ultimate for decent damage, doesn't get any rebounds out of it though. In the meantime, it just feels like Jeter and Rarepeep are just messing with Tanyo. Audes dies somehow throughout that entire thing as well, and YoungSung are poised to take a 3rd round here.
Yeah, YoungSung looking so good here, trying to go up 3-1 in this game too. The Blossom can't help but feel like she's not long for this world as she goes down. Rook, he's spinning, having a good time, but he's also dead.
He's channeling the spirit of Crazy, who couldn't be here today, but spinning in place when the round is over.
Yeah, spinning.
I salute you.
Whenever I think about spinning in place, I just think of Emperor. The OG spinner. The OG Rook as well. Shout outs to you, Emperor. Hey man, show respect where respect is due. He was successful far before you were in the scene.
True, true.
Of course, there is no Emperor in this match. This is Black Dragons versus YoungSung, and YoungSung are looking like the team we expected them to. After coming off a hot win from Impact, they are playing dominantly. They've only lost 1 round so far in this match.
It's been just very effective so far, and I love the way that Ninjas, it feels like he's really ramping up. He's getting a confidence up, and look at that combo on Tanyo in particular. They've sort of just worked him around these walls. He's really not even permitted to enter back into mid. Ninja's going to keep the M2s on him as well, getting his counter hit, trying to play around that, just channeling counter damage after counter damage onto Higure.
Yeah, not letting him do anything. This orb is going to be taken by YoungSung as well. I thought there was no way they had that. Thought blue team was going to nab it for sure, and Rook is still sitting on no energy. He finally gets a single bar, but has to eat immediately. This is just so hard for the Rook Crooks. Even on such a favorable map, he's having such a hard time getting in.
Yeah, and look at the way Ninjas is just denying his charge over and over again. He's holding cooldown specifically just to keep Rook from being able to get in. This pinball channels again on those 2 opposing walls of Ormond-Day. Absolute brutality.
Yeah, nice counter there, negating that Dance of the Dryads as well. Now the Scarabs, they're here and they're ready to play. He's not going to land any on the enemies just yet. He's got 1 left and he gets it onto the Blossom with the panic. That DOT is ticking, and that's a lot of damage from Scarabs.
Yeah, it's so difficult for Blossom to try and deal with, especially if you don't have Gust up, and Jeter's been using it at such ideal times to really apply a lot of pressure to the side of Black Dragons. Now, Higure gonna use Gust to try and deny some of that pressure, but Rarepeep gonna move on in with that bulwark. They're just worried about denying Rook now. The counter goes off. They force the M2 as well, and the charge comes in from downtown with the dunk from Rarepeep.
Yeah, Rarepeep throwing that one down, not letting this round go anywhere but in their favor. Seeing if they can kill down Audes. Nice pinball, but the geometry a little bit off. Maybe Ninja is a little bit too young to have taken geometry at this point.
Yeah, he's still in Algebra 2. That bounce will look better next year.
Yeah, next year we'll see how that works. But YoungSung, even with a little bit of lacking geometry, they take the round up 4-1 now. Of course, still only 1 round loss in this best of 5. We're in game 2 currently, 9-1 total score.
Man, when you watch Ninjas just deny Tano's cooldowns just over and over again, try to charge, get space, try to charge again, get R bounced and knocked out of your animation. Like, it just feels so fruitless when you've got a player that talented just kind of swatting you every time you try and stand up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to feel just so suffocating, especially on a map like this. So our consensus was it kind of favors Black Dragons in a lot of ways.
I mean, it's not like Tanho is just like some player you can overlook as well. This dude's an incredibly good Rook, but just Ninja's on this counter pick doing so well, using his cooldowns perfectly, really showing how you want to play Destiny versus Rook. Once again, getting energy just enough to eat. He's going to charge in immediately after with that heal over time. See how it goes here. He gets a nice in cap up top, but there's no follow-up, Crooks.
Yeah, solid orb confirmed by YoungSung, but the HP total is still standing relatively even. Audes pushed back, forced to iframe that Pestilence Panic as well, and this is when Ninja should really be moving in. Another channel from the ultimate. Doesn't get too much, just tells people, hey, you're not allowed to cross this line. Yeah, pretty much. Holding his enemies outside of that. The Dance of the Dryad is going to come out, but it's immediately canceled after. Rarepeep dropping that ulti, going to secure the orb with it, but he still takes quite a bit of damage, Crooks. He's trying to return it now onto the Rook, and man, Rook Tano, the damage is adding up quickly. Yeah, and he has no counter anymore. Ninja's looking to get the cancel on him. Actually cancels out of the space into the M2. Ninja's mechanics are really, really shining here in just sort of his cooldown rotation, keeping Tanho down. And again, we see Black Dragons just worked into this corner here.
Yep, not a great place. The counter of Tanho is procced, and he isn't able to get that orb. I thought the boulder might be able to, but at the end of the day, it was not. The pinball, this one's hitting, getting a lot of value, and the counter's not procced as well. At this point, the Rook has nowhere to go. Rare Peep knows it, and he just hunts him down. The Infernal Scorch is the answer from Audas, but he doesn't get nearly the amount of HP from his enemies that he needed, and this one is all but over. YoungSung, 5-1.
Man, only dropping one round this time, and you know, even adjusting the map and everything, I think I really enjoyed watching them play this comp in particular. They just look so effective. They're making a lot of space. You know, we talk so much about Ninjas with sort of this outplay potential, how he's just being an absolute savage about his cooldown rotations, just in Tano's head constantly, keeping him down. And you have to credit, you know, his teammates are really a really big part of that. Rare Peep creating so much space with Bako, being that wall. I think he's a great example of how when you think about melee play currently, it's so much more than just using cooldowns. It's about positioning as well. It's about using the map to your advantage. And I think Rare Peep does all of those things. You know, he'll walk up, he won't even necessarily press a button, but you fear him because you know he's holding that counter, he's holding that bulwark. Just absolutely terrifying to try and play against. He's creating so much space. And then, of course, Jeter on the back line playing a really consistent support role so far. The Pestilences look great, even on a map that we would usually think it wouldn't be a super solid pick. Yeah, it's so cool to see Jeter being successful on this Pestilence as well. A common complaint about YoungSung a couple months ago is that they don't have a healer player. They have a serious player. Yep. They have ninjas, but Jeter has really filled into this role well, not only being very successful and older, but playing the Pestilence as well, and looking very good on it at that. Yeah, and I think the way he supports his team is great, and we've seen awesome collapses with them too. The burst potential of that Bloodsucker M2. We've seen so many situations where he's set up a situation where he and his teammates can really coordinate just for that big smackdown play that you remember. And I think their team coordination is great. I feel like it's always been a strength of any team Jeter's been on. You know, you think back to the old unsung lineups with him, Chalt, and Niwa, and that was always what was so fun, so explosive about watching. It really brings me back to, you know, casting the first tournament after free-to-play release with you, watching that Croak, Ashka, Older combos just go off between the Ashka and the Croak. The synergy there was there in that team component, and it's here too, I think. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this is a best of 5. So there's one more game. This is for a qualification in the semifinals. Whoever wins this is going to secure their spot in the semifinals, and with it, a nice chunk of change. Whoever loses it, gonna have to play against Impact to qualify for the semis. That's a pretty scary spot, having to play against Impact in this next best of 5. Neither of these teams really want to lose and have to do that. Absolutely, and you know, we could save this information for later, but I want to spoil it right now and get your thoughts, ITF. There's been a second pick of a certain support hero that we haven't seen at all in this tournament, and that support hero is Xander coming out from Black Dragons. Okay. Well, my instant thought is it reminds me of Rook Xander Jade. A comp that we haven't seen in quite some time, but a comp that was inarguably powerful back in the day. The damage amp supplied with the Jade M1s just can do so much. I don't think we'll see a Jade here. It can also be very valuable with the Ashka. Of course, just Armor Break plus Arcane Catalyst. In general, no matter what range DPS you pair that with, you're going to be pumping out a lot of damage. Of course, it has been nerfed and tweaked quite a bit since then. One of the problems with Xander currently is he lacks a bit of healing. He only has his EXM2 for the burst healing, the Spotlight. It has a cleanse tied to it as well. But you also want to be using your regular M2. You want to be applying Arcane Catalyst through that way. This leads me to the point of the Rook. I like the Rook because he doesn't need as much healing as other characters do. He has that Eat available, so he can heal himself a little bit, and then the weakness of the Xander lacking healing isn't quite as apparent. However, I'm not sure this is going to work out, as still just the punish game from YoungSung against the Rook is so strong. Of course, they're bringing to the table a little bit of a different comp now. Ashka, Rygon, and Pestilence. This is going to be pretty interesting. Yeah, and I mean, what you didn't acknowledge is that there is both a Shifu and a Rook on the side of Black Dragons, combined with that Xander. So that is double melee Xander on the side of Black Dragons. Oh, man. Yeah, you got a face on right now. Yeah, you want to talk about that? The camera was on Crooks, but I was scowling. That's absolutely disgusting. There's a Shifu Rook. The pressure from this comp is going to be absolutely disgusting if they manage to get in there and be successful. But I feel like the Pestilence is just going to be so successful here, Crooks, that AoE fear. I'm very interested to see whether or not Jeter takes the panic bounce, simply because the unrelenting aggression, I feel like there's always going to be a melee on him. Yeah, I think the key problem that we'll have to see here is how the Ashka pick for Ninjas kind of responds to this double melee pressure. Right. In addition, you know, if you run out of iframes with Ashka, you're going to get a sheep trick aimed at you every single time by Audas. That could lock you down, set you up for a huge punish by the double melee. I think they've got to be very careful about setting up Ashka to succeed. Other than that, you know, I feel confident about YoungSung. We'll see how it goes. Game 3 of this best of 5. Very excited to see how this works.
Crooks, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about with this comp. Before the lady in my ear interrupted me, we got a lot of interesting things with that Rook Shifu. We'll see if the pressure is able to be kept up. Shifu getting right in there immediately. Rygon using that Heavenly Strike to get in as well. But the in cap coming out on the Pestilus, the portal being used by both melees as well. This pressure, it's like I talked about, unrelenting from this double melee.
Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous to watch already. I love the first portal timing coming up from Audez is great. The application of the Arcane Catalyst is making Rare Peep's life very, very difficult. The Rook counter, unfortunately, not hit as Jeter's just going to try and reset with the Pestilus. Ninja's looking desperately for an opportunity to deal some damage.
That Heavenly Strike, Rare Peep getting right out of there and picking up some greens. Tries to use that seismic shock, but he's going to cancel it. A beautiful parry negates the charge from Tanho. And once again, Crooks, we've seen this time and time again, the Rook has no energy.
Yeah, it just looks like Tanho, once again, is just having such a difficult time. You'd think their comp runs so hard, but look at that. Even the Infest and the Ninjas, look at that little taxi there, getting inside of Ninja's spaces. Jeter's out of there. The firewall set up, but now Tanho and Higure are on top of him. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make it out of this, as his Infest missed. Nice in-cap on the Ninjas as well.
Yeah, the Infernal Scorch negated by that in-cap. Very beautiful play there from Tanho, slowing the roll of Ninja's Ashka, but this orb looking like it's going to be taken by red, but actually Black Dragons managed to snag it, Crooks.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal as well. YoungSung were hoping to stabilize off of that orb. Rare Peep is doing his best to create space, and he is denying the Shifu very well. Look at those parry timings on him, really shutting down Shifu very, very hard as Rook. Once again, trying to go in. Rare Peep just trying to create space for his teammates. The portal is in. The Ashka ultimate comes out really to no effect here, and they are going to try and probably finish off Audez here, but I don't imagine they'll be able to catch him.
Yeah, I don't think they have the audacity to chase that hard just yet. They're going to let Audez go. Going to get away for now, but a Rare Peep going to actually fall, or rather Ninja's going to fall on the Ashka.
And I was worried about this, man. This comp seems a little bit dicey. I feel like YoungSung perhaps didn't know exactly what they were running into with this draft, did not expect the double melee, because this is a very difficult comp for Ninjas to try and play Ashka into. That being said, it's now slimmed down to a 2v2. Pestilus, Rygon, not exactly a known 2v2 comp that has a lot of synergy together, but it is Rare Peep and Jeter, and the side of Black Dragon's remaining players are very, very low on HP. Jeter, Rare Peep may be able to close out here, and yeah, stun block takes out Tanho.
Rare Peep's really good at Battlerite. He's just really good at Battlerite.
Yeah, he's all right.
He played that 1v1 perfectly against the Rook. Tanho had nothing to do. Everything seemed like it was perfectly answered by Rare Peep's Rygon. See if this orb can be taken by the Shifu. He needed it in order to stay in this round, but he didn't get it. The mind control is there. The in cap is there as well. A double in cap is the answer, and he picks up some green shards, Crooks. He gets some healing from that EX space as well, but his HP immediately eviscerates after the EX space wears off. And the boys of red, YoungSung, going to take this one.
Yeah, I mean, Rare Peep really popped off that game. I feel like the space he occupied on the Rygon was just absolutely disgusting. Half the time over on the top of the map, it just felt like he was running two members of Black Dragons all on his own, especially timing sort of that recast on, well, not the recast, but the charge up on the parry with the stun. It locks down the enemy team so hard, and he has a really good way of sort of positioning with it and then sticking to people that he's looking to interrupt and stun. I like his double palm cast as well to just respond with a lot of damage against people on walls.
Yeah, very nice ability usage there. Shifu got his counter proc. He uses his immaterial immediately after. Not a favorable situation for the Shuvi. He gets knocked back by the Dragon Palm, and Rare Peep, I like that move. He uses the second cast of Dragon Palm to move back with his allies. The counter going to be canceled out by the Volcano, and now the Shifu is wide open for damage, Crooks. He gets punished so hard here. The Sheep is there to negate the Rare Peep pressure, but still, the damage has been done here. There's no energy on Higure. His HP is getting significantly lower than it should be, and the Shifu, he's going to have a hard time getting in.
Yeah, they had some nicely timed cooldowns to try and control Shifu. He is able to get a couple of solid smacks off, some decent damage on Ninjas, but nothing that's going to last too much. And Audez very low with no energy available. Is going to be on the run most of the time. Shifu as well, lacking the counter, only has the space at disposal. Here comes the Ashka ulti. That was a big hit by Ninjas. Perfect.
Yeah, huge damage from that Infernal Scorch, getting so much pressure out as well, and he's not letting up. Ninjas, he wants to go in. He finds a lot of damage on Higure. There's no counter available anymore, but Ninjas ends up getting burst so hard. The second Infernal Scorch does not get cast, but Xander is the trade. YoungSung still in a very advantageous situation with twice the HP pool of Black Dragons. We'll see if they can keep it that way. This orb going to be absolutely key, and they do get it. The ultimate from Rare Peep is there. We might see a kill here off of it. That counter read like a book, but there's no parry. Rare Peep chooses to space out, play a little bit safe here. I feel like this is an absolutely dominant position here, Crooks.
I feel like we've seen this situation before. It's definitely having an easier time sort of controlling ninjas is Black Dragons, but they seem to really have a lot of problems when they finally have to encounter the problem with the Rare Peep Raigon, as you know, they are quite down in this 2v2. You can tell Higure being very careful with his counter. He knows it's meaningful. The mind control is great, though, and it's going to bring him down to just a sliver of health. He's holding onto the counter, doesn't get a chance to use it as Rare Peep just whacks him.
Rook, all that's left, the counter is not procced. He finally has a bar of energy for that eat. He's going to use it, but I don't think one eat is going to do enough to heal him up through the damage of Rare Peep. And YoungSung, they are up now 2-0 in this game 3. Of course, they have a 2-game advantage in the best of 5, so if they manage to win 3 more rounds, they have secured themselves a spot in the semifinals.
It just looks like they don't have a solution for Rare Peep's Raigon now, in the same way that Ninjas on Destiny was kind of running them in the last game. It feels like they've now, shifted the weight a little bit onto Rare Peep to really, put in the reps here. Yeah. And I think the Raigon just looks so powerful here. He has so much presence. He's dealing so much damage.
Yeah, a lot of damage, a lot of pressure from Rare Peep's Raigon. See if he can keep it up here. Round 3. He goes in, gets a nice knock up onto the Shifu, and lands that Heavenly Strike immediately afterwards. And the damage onto the Rook, pretty massive. That portal was misplaced, and Tanho didn't get any of it. Not a favorable situation for the Rook. He can't get in, Crooks. He's knocked up and in-capped into a volcano. He's panicked to force out the M2. He's got nowhere to go. The counter's not procced. YoungSung is playing flawlessly.
I mean, they're just denying him so hard. It's like, you're just Tanho, and it's like, oh, the land machine broke. I don't get to play the game, actually. Sorry. A little bit of an unfortunate situation. Look at them just weave in and out of his cooldowns. Rare Peep, of course, playing very far forward. Again, got to shoot that counter off, try and CC Tanho. He does manage to sidestep out of it. This orb is going to be big, and Ninja's going to be able to confirm that with a nicely placed Infernal Scorch. At the same time, Higure just going to get bursted by Jeter.
Yeah, he gets popped like a balloon. The Rook throwing out that Tremor, but it's not going to get any value. He recognizes it's over at the last minute. The in-cap comes out onto the Xander. He uses that rabbit form to try to get away. But P2 now recognizes it is all but over. 3-0 in game 3, Crooks. This is looking like it might be a 5-0 sweep.
Very difficult game. It's just looking like the Xander in particular is a little bit ineffective. When we think of what Xander used to be, at least, it was all about that damage amp, that portal pulling people out of really key situations. And I feel like we see it, but it's not nearly as impactful as I remember it being. And I feel like it doesn't slow the roll of YoungSung at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the damage he's able to put out is so minimal, too. He has that double sheep Battlerite in order to try to sheep the enemies, but it's just not getting enough value. That CC is coming too little too late, and it seems like by the time it comes out, the damage has already been done to either Tanho or Higure.
Yeah. Decent start for Higure, getting his counter hit. Nice in-cap CC on Rare Peep as well, but they aren't really able to capitalize off of that as always. Look at that. Tanho just repeatedly CC'd, loses so much HP.
Yeah, Rare Peep, he actually takes a pretty unfavorable trade here, though. The parry getting no value, and the sheep is going to be applied after that Dragon Palm. Red team, though, they still get the orb, Crooks.
Yeah, not too bad for them, though. Ninjas is in a really good position to just kind of tee off here. Xander's going to attempt to set up on him, but he's behind the firewall, able to bail out from behind that cheap trick. Jeter and Rare Peep just going to try and reconvene with him. The next orb is going to be coming up very soon. They're going to want objective control here, especially since they push back Black Dragons up towards the top left of the map.
Nice Bloodsucker onto Ashka, making Jeter making sure his allies topped off. They get the orb as well. They're second of the round. Another sheep comes out, and the ultimate is there from the Shifu. Gets quite a lot of damage on a Rare Peep as well. He gets healed up finally, but still, he's taking quite a chunk. It's pretty strong opening here for the blue team, and wow, that double in-cap, absolutely huge.
Yeah, combined with the Arcane Catalyst, Rare Peep just barely going to be able to limp out of there. Shifu, however, holding on to no counter. Jeter's going to try and respond with a panic of his own. The knockup is there from Rare Peep. The weaken allows him to not quite die to that trade yet. He's got to be very careful. He's walking a very fine line right now, able to disrupt the cast from Xander, just using all of his abilities. Look how mobile Rare Peep is. Really insane movement by him.
The Infernal Scorch does end up landing on the Shifu up top. The portal a little bit late, so Higure took all of that damage. This next orb going to be so incredibly key for the blue or the red team. Blue team can manage to get it. It would absolutely shut out the red, and they do. Raigon going to immediately fall afterwards. He needed that HP, and he got none of it.
Yeah, Black Dragon's doing a much better job, it felt like, of denying Rare Peep this game. His movement was so good, but it felt like a lot of the times as well, off the back of that, you'd want to see Ninjas, dealing a lot of damage, getting that ulti farm in, getting some really important abilities off, and it felt like a lot of the time he did get damage off, but it wasn't necessarily the right times where it would stick or allow them to confirm a serious amount of HP or a kill.
Yeah, absolutely, and with that, Black Dragon's going to take their second round of this best of 5. Now 13-2 is the round score. And when I say it like that, the situation sounds kind of dire. And I bring that up because this is a very dire situation. If YoungSung managed to take 2 more rounds, they're going to qualify for the semifinals and play up against, I believe, SSG first seed versus second seed from North America. First seed of Group B versus second seed from Group A.
Oof,
yeah, so that's going to be a pretty crazy match.
That'd be a barn burner.
We'll see if YoungSung is able to make it there, though. They need to win 2 more. Black Dragon's definitely going to not want that to happen. We'll see if they can stop the steamroll that is coming from YoungSung. The Sheep, it's going to come out, and it's nicely going to land on Rare Peep. The knockback from the Rook charge actually forces that to happen.
It's actually looking fairly good for Black Dragons here.
Yeah.
Tano with an okay start. He found a way in, but he's going to take the portal out, surprisingly enough. They're doing a reset for the orb, and they are going to manage to take it as Rare Peep sort of all in, going for his space in an attempt to confirm the orb here. And now YoungSung forced pretty far back on the right here. Tano is sitting on a comfortable amount of HP. They have a good lead to work with on the side of Black Dragons.
Yeah, the Swarm was used too. The Queen going to be dropped to negate the Rook charge, but he's now finding his way up against the Ragon. The parry's going to be there. The armor break applied too. He has to play so safely here, but Rare Peep is just taking so much damage. Crooks, the orb goes to the Black Dragons as well. This is looking all but over for Rare Peep and the boys.
Yeah, he's been taking a lot more damage now. I feel like Higure and Tanho in particular are doing a much better job of coordinating onto Rare Peep. The Ashka ultimate comes out, but once again, not too much meaningful damage here. Throws the Ashka Q, but not able to land it on anybody. Higure lacking some cooldowns here. They try and go aggressive, but once again, Rare Peep not able to find anything.
Rare Peep, he's going to space in. That Heavenly Strike is not going to help them secure the orb, however. There's a Scarab there to try to heal him up a little bit. The charge is there from the Rook. He gets some damage. A nice Heavenly Strike out allows Rare Peep to not die to that Shifu ultimate. Charge there. Charge into Portal is there. And they actually find the kill onto Higure.
I can't believe that. This round should have been so far in favor of Black Dragons. If they were able to bring it back, that'll be really surprising. A great Petrify by Ninjas to take some of the heat off of Rare Peep. Knocks him up into the portal, is going to relocate Tanho, but he can't get too much done. A little bit of a preemptive M2 as Ashka going to go for the ultimate, but he's put into Sheep Trick, doesn't manage to get that off. As Tano, no HP to work with, he's just going to get run at by Rare Peep, and that's a dead Rook.
Yeah, the Infernal Scorch is used, but it's not going to land as the portal is available, but Audaz is all that's left, and this is all but over. If they can finish off the kill onto Audaz, they'll only need 1 more round to take this game, and with it, the match. YoungSung are on match point.
Yeah, and it just looks like Black Dragons, they don't quite have the solution to, in particular, trying to finally confirm the burst on one hero. We saw Rare Peep limping around with almost no HP, but still getting his job done. The beauty of Rygon right now, with that weaken on the space, you can go aggressive and still win trades, even with a very small chunk of HP. You can enable your teammates by creating space, and it was good because I think whereas Rare Peep took a lot more damage that round, Ninjas definitely picked up the speed a little bit and dropped a nice 1,200 damage number. Pretty respectable.
When we saw Rare Peep getting ran at, Ninjas did a great job capitalizing, similar to how we see Averse capitalize on the pressure Proster puts out. She did such a good job. The Shifu going to get a nice in-cap on the Ashka to slow his roll this round. Things looking pretty good here for the blue team as Rare Peep, he's taking quite a chunk of damage already.
Not looking too good for him. He's definitely been pushed off relatively hard. The Pestilus going to attempt to reset, make the mid-orb happen. I love the panic timing on Xander. Look at that follow-up by Rare Peep. The way he and Jeter just collapsed instantly on Audaz, making his life so difficult. Very, very clean. He's going to turn his attention to Shifu now as Ninjas is just going to try and reset. Tano's actually found a way in, though. A little bit of room to do damage, but Ninja's going to follow up with some decent damage of his own. Yeah,
Rare Peep, he's taking quite a chunk, as is Ninjas, both getting pretty low here. This orb's going to be very important for YoungSung. A nice Dragon Palm is going to help him secure it. The second orb of the ground going to YoungSung, now tied at 1-1 in orb score.
Yeah, and Higure attempting to go in, has to use just his normal space, though. He doesn't have a whole lot of tools at his disposal, manages to get his counter hit, but now he's in, he's going to have a hard time getting out. The Infernal Scorch is going to cancel the Shifu ultimate. Higure has no health at his disposal. Thankfully, an EX space on deck, but now Tano caught without cooldowns. The Xander portal is kind of the last thing they had on deck, and Red Team even able to snag that orb.
Yeah, that orb absolutely massive. The Arcane Catalyst is applied on the Ashka, so he has a bit of an opening here in terms of his enemy's damage output. The counter barely going to get procced by that, or on the Rook. Portal here, it's available. Shifu, instead of going into his allies, opting to back out, as is Tanho. Blue team holding mid, trying to secure this orb. We'll see if they get it. A sick panic onto the Xander makes that very unlikely, but they still do it.
Yeah, and Shifu gonna channel the Whirling Blades, not able to find anything after it. Another very nicely timed portal by Audaz is gonna bail him out of trouble. But once again, YoungSung just playing with a lot more HP here. The Ashka ultimate's gonna come out. They aren't quite able to connect on Xander. Ninja's gonna jump the wall. Can he get one more M1? He can't. Tanho body blocking. And Ninja's actually in a rough situation now. He has the Arcane Catalyst on. Shifu is slain though. If Ninjas go down here, they're gonna be in another 2v2.
Yeah, another 2v2 with a 13% HP advantage going into the side of YoungSung. Xander, he's used all of his outs as well. Audaz running so far, using that spotlight on himself even. The rabbit form now used. All of the defensive cooldowns being spammed by this by the Xander, and they're all being used on himself. Such a hard way, or such a hard time getting away this Xander is having. He's not going to end up getting away at the end of the day. And now a 2v1 situation. Tonho, he's had his back against the wall this entire match, being counterpicked to hell and back. We'll see if he's able to take this one. He gets the infest from the Pestilus, but he's not going to be able to capitalize on it anymore. Now the red team, they get the orb as well. There's no counter. This is looking all but over, Crooks.
Man, Rare peeps control of the Rook here. You can really see it shine in this close situation. Look at that cancel again, reading the counter perfectly. Even though he procs it, the in-cap is set. He's going to have the palm recast to try and knock him out. The parry, stopping him from charging. Tonho is going to iframe it, but in a fit again. Jeter setting up the panic combo for the swag, and it's going to be the 5-1 and YoungSung move on.
An incredibly cute way to finish off that round. YoungSung managed to take the game. I gotta say, man, that the mind control into the Queen Pop panic at the very end, very beautiful play from Jeter.
It was smooth. You knew he wanted it. He saw the opportunity. He was like, oh, gotta have that.
He's like, I gotta swag on this one. Give me that highlight reel clip.
Give me the highlight reel, exactly.
Yeah, can you believe this team's still not signed? Taking out all of these sick teams.
I guess if your DMs don't work, you know, funny things can happen.
yeah, pretty much. Black Dragons, they're not out of it just yet. Very important to remember. They will be playing against Impact in the lower bracket of Group B for the finals to see if they can make it to the semifinals tomorrow.
A truly terrifying prospect, though.
Yeah, I mean, playing against Impact, I don't think any team here wants to do that.
Not particularly, no. You know, we've seen them just be so strong throughout the history of Battlerite, and I think that having to finally face them now after they were sort of fortuitously dropped into the lower bracket for you, you sort of delayed the opportunity to have to play against them up until now, but now there's nothing stopping it.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping it. Black Dragons, they're going to be the ones that have to face the Tyrants, and you know, an Impact with their back against the wall is not an Impact I want to play against. Of course, standard Impact is pretty good, but if they have to win in order to advance in the tournament, I feel like they're going to be playing with everything they got.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be terrifying. I think we're going to see, you know, the real comps come out. They're going to want to guarantee these wins. They're going to want that 3-0. They're going to want to make it happen. They don't want to stay any later. They want this day to be done and dusted so they can focus on day 2.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about how long this day has been. You and I, my friends, have been here casting for 12 hours.
We did okay. Yeah. You know, we got brought out of our little online hole of casting, and we've adapted to the real world in, you know, relative amount of style.
I got to say, there's no one else I'd rather be here casting with for 12 hours. It's been a pleasure casting with you. We're going to have a winner's interview coming up with the captain of YoungSung himself, the crowd favorite, Mr. Jeter.
Look at him go.
How's it going, my 2 favorite people standing next to me?
We're just your favorite because we're talking you up. You hear us when you walk back to the stage, you're like, man, these guys are so nice to me.
I watch the VODs and I turn off stream if you're talking bad about me.
As long as we got to make you look good for your parents, you know. That's the main thing. Got to make you look good in front of you. You know?
All right. First and foremost, you managed to beat Impact, a match that everybody wanted to watch. 3-1 at that. Was the round score close and was it competitive, or did you guys just kind of steamroll?
Yeah, so I think most of the maps we were actually down in rounds and started to come back. We had our map draft was really weird maps. You don't see them a lot. Ormond Day, Ormond Night, Sky Day, Araz Day, Araz Night. So it was definitely weird to play on those maps, but we weren't afraid of them because we have a Bako player.
Yeah,
so,
fair peep. If there's a Bako player you could have, I think he's a good one. And speaking of weird things, we were watching you guys scrim yesterday at the SLS Studios. Mid-game, you guys decided to switch characters because you thought the peripherals were uncomfortable. This makes me think that you guys are all incredibly versatile. At this point in professional Battlerite, how important do you think versatility is in hero picks?
So I think as far as like the draft goes, it's definitely very scary if someone picks Ulrich, who I've been learning, and you don't know if it's Ninjas who's known to play Ulrich on our team or me to play Ulrich, because then you just don't know. Like if someone picks Iva, I know who's playing Iva on the team.
Right.
I know what the next character is going to be.
Yeah.
So it's very different if you don't know what's going to happen, and it's very different to draft against it.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see it making the world of difference. My last question before we move on and get to our last match of the day, who do you think is going to take the tournament, Jeter?
Who's going to take the tournament? I mean, now I have to say myself.
That's what I like to hear.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Now that we it was a really good match against Impact. The last match was 5-4. I think we were down 3-4, 4-4, and then we got 5-4 in a really close match where I just knew I didn't want to throw and go to a 2-2 match, so we were playing very, very cautiously on the last map. So
yeah, well,
very interesting.
Congratulations once again for making it this far. You are a top 4 team in the world. I'm sure that has to feel great. Yeah. And we'll see him play tomorrow. For now, we're going to cut to a short break before we get into our last game of the day.